They say Silicon Valley runs on algorithms and coffee. But in the shadowy corners of San Jose's tech campuses, a different kind of code was about to be broken, along with quite a few bones. Marcus Wong, with his thick-rimmed glasses, Star Wars t-shirts, and social anxiety, looked like every other software engineer grinding away at their keyboards. But behind those glasses lay the eyes of someone who had spent 15 years mastering the deadly art of Wing Chun in his grandmother's courtyard in Hong Kong. Now, as he stood surrounded by 7 gang members in the darkened parking lot of NextGen Technologies, those thugs were about to learn a painful lesson about judging books by their covers. The leader, a muscled giant with tribal tattoos crawling up his neck, cracked his knuckles and smiled. "Last chance, nerd. Tell us how to access Zhang's servers, and maybe we only break one of your arms. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you." Marcus sighed, removing his glasses and carefully placing them in his shirt pocket. His grandmother always said the most dangerous opponents were the ones who thought they couldn't lose. As the first thug rushed forward, Marcus allowed himself a small smile. Sometimes the best way to debug bad code was to crash the entire system. 3 weeks earlier, the sleek Tesla Model 3 pulled into the underground parking of Quantum Dynamics, one of Silicon Valley's hottest AI startups. Dr. Marcus Wong adjusted his glasses, catching his reflection in the rearview mirror. Dark circles under his eyes testified to the 14-hour flight from Hong Kong, but he couldn't delay this meeting any longer. His Aunt Catherine, the company's vice president of engineering, had practically begged him to leave his cushy research position at MIT to help with their quantum computing division. "You can't hide in academia forever," she had said during their video call, her voice carrying that familiar mix of concern and determination. "Besides, your grandmother made me promise to keep an eye on you after everything that happened in Hong Kong." Marcus winced at the memory as he gathered his laptop bag and a small wooden box his grandmother had insisted he bring. Few people knew that his sabbatical in Hong Kong had actually been intensive training with his grandmother, Mei Wong, one of the last true masters of Wing Chun Kung Fu. After the incident at MIT, the one that almost got him expelled despite his brilliant research, his grandmother had insisted he needed more than just mental discipline. "Your mind is strong," she had told him, correcting his stance for the 1,000th time in her ancient courtyard. "But you live in a world where some problems cannot be solved with equations alone." The bruises from that day's training had lasted weeks. The elevator dinged, opening to a typical Silicon Valley office, open floor plan, beanbags, and the constant hum of developers arguing about code optimization. But Marcus noticed things others might miss. The security cameras had been recently upgraded, yet their placement left blind spots near the server rooms. The fire exits had new electronic locks, but their delayed alarm systems could be exploited. Even the janitorial staff moved with too much purpose, their eyes lingering too long on employees' screens. Catherine stood waiting by the reception desk, her designer suit a stark contrast to the casual hoodies around her. At 55, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had survived the tech industry's worst crashes and highest peaks. "Look who finally decided to join the real world." She pulled him into a hug, then whispered, "Your timing couldn't be better. We've had problems." Before Marcus could ask what she meant, a commotion erupted at the security desk. A man in an expensive suit was shouting at the guard, his face red with anger, 2 larger men flanking him with barely concealed menace. "You tell Zhang that Phoenix Tech doesn't take no for an answer. He can't hide behind his algorithms forever." Catherine's face tightened. Richard Kane, Phoenix Tech's head of acquisitions. More like their professional bully. She steered Marcus away. "They've been trying to buy our quantum encryption technology for months. Lately, their tactics have become aggressive." As they toured the office, Marcus observed the aftermath of those tactics. A developer's workstation had been recently replaced, the new keyboard not quite hiding the coffee stains on the desk. Another employee sported a fresh arm cast, supposedly from a bike accident. Even the break room showed signs of tension, Employees huddled in tight groups, speaking in whispers, glancing nervously at the windows. "Your desk is here." Catherine gestured to a corner workspace overlooking the campus courtyard. "And this," she handed him a key card, "gives you access to the quantum computing lab downstairs. You're the only one besides Dr. Zhang and me who has clearance." "Why so much security for an encryption algorithm?" Marcus asked, though he already suspected the answer. He'd reviewed enough of Dr. Zhang's published work to know they were pushing the boundaries of quantum computing. Catherine glanced around before lowering her voice. "Because what Dr. Zhang discovered isn't just another encryption method. It's a quantum decryption key that could potentially break every existing security system in the world, in the wrong hands." A loud crash interrupted them. Down in the courtyard, two large men, the same ones who had flanked Kane earlier, were accidentally knocking over a young programmer's laptop and papers. The programmer, a young woman barely out of college, fought back tears as they loomed over her. "Phoenix Tech's idea of market research," Catherine sighed. "They hire local muscle to intimidate our employees into quitting. Police can't prove anything, and tech companies don't exactly have a reputation for handling physical confrontations." Marcus watched the scene, his fingers unconsciously moving through the forms his grandmother had drilled into him thousands of times. For 15 years, she had taught him that Kung Fu wasn't about fighting. It was about protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. He reached into his bag, touching the wooden box his grandmother had given him. "Don't worry," he said, pushing his glasses up his nose. "I'm good at solving complex problems." What he didn't say was that some problems required a more hands-on algorithm than others. Silicon Valley was about to learn that not all code warriors fought their battles behind keyboards, and not all dragons lived in server rooms. Marcus spent his first week at Quantum Dynamics establishing what his grandmother would call awareness of the battlefield. Every morning, he arrived early to practice his forms in the empty office gym, the gentle movements of Wing Chun flowing like water as he centered himself for the day ahead. The cleaning staff hardly gave him a second glance, just another health-conscious programmer starting his day with some gentle yoga. The quantum computing lab became his sanctuary, its humming servers and blinking lights reminiscent of his grandmother's meditation room. Here, amid the cutting-edge technology, he worked on integrating Dr. Zhang's breakthrough with his own quantum algorithms, but his trained eyes never missed the increasing signs of trouble. "Another resignation?" Marcus asked, watching Catherine process paperwork at her desk. 3 developers had quit in the past week alone. "Linda's husband was approached in their daughter's school parking lot," Catherine said, her voice tight. "They suggested he should convince his wife to seek opportunities elsewhere. She has 2 kids, Marcus. I can't blame her for leaving." Marcus nodded, thinking of the wooden box in his apartment. Inside lay his grandmother's prized possession, her master's red seal, passed down through 6 generations of Wing Chun teachers. "A true master knows when to reveal their strength," she always said, but she also taught him that timing was everything. Later that afternoon, Marcus met Dr. Zhang for the first time. The renowned quantum physicist was nothing like he expected. A cheerful man in his 60s who wore Hawaiian shirts and kept a mini Zen garden on his desk. As they discussed quantum encryption algorithms, a commotion outside drew their attention. 2 large men in suits, different from Kane's usual thugs, were inspecting cars in the parking lot. Their professional demeanor couldn't hide their true nature from Marcus's trained eye. He recognized the subtle bulge of concealed weapons, the practiced way they moved in tandem, the quick hand signals they exchanged. These weren't common thugs. They were trained professionals. "Phoenix Tech is escalating," Dr. Zhang sighed, absently raking patterns in his Zen garden. "They've hired ex-military contractors now. Did you know they tried to break into my house last week? Fortunately, I was at a conference." Marcus frowned. "Have you considered accepting their buyout offer? And give them unrestricted access to quantum decryption? They'd start by cracking their competitors' security, then move on to government systems, financial institutions." Zhang shook his head. "Some doors are better left closed." A knock interrupted them. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Sarah Chen, one of the junior developers Marcus had noticed earlier in the week, stood in the doorway. Her eyes were red, hands shaking slightly as she clutched a laptop. "Dr. Zhang, someone accessed my workstation last night. They copied files. I don't know how they got past our security, but..." Marcus moved instinctively, pulling out a chair for her while scanning the hallway behind her. Empty, but he caught a glimpse of someone quickly turning the corner. "Show me," he said, taking her laptop. His fingers flew over the keyboard, tracing the intrusion. The attack was sophisticated, a quantum-based approach that shouldn't have been possible unless... "They're closer than we thought," he muttered. "They've already developed a primitive version of our quantum decryption." "Impossible," Zhang exclaimed. "The mathematical framework alone would take years." "Unless they had help," Catherine said from the doorway. She held up her tablet, displaying an internal email. "Kevin from our quantum team disappeared last night. His resignation letter just arrived. He's accepted a senior position at Phoenix Tech." Marcus thought of the ex-military contractors outside, the increasing pressure on employees, the sophisticated cyber attack. Phoenix Tech wasn't just trying to buy them out anymore. They were waging a full-spectrum war. That evening, as the office emptied, Marcus remained at his desk, apparently absorbed in his coding. In reality, he was watching the reflection in his screen, noting the janitor who took too long cleaning the same spot, the security guard whose uniform didn't quite fit right. His grandmother's voice echoed in his mind. "Observe your opponents until they reveal their true nature." He opened the secure messaging app on his phone, sending a quick text to Catherine. "Need access to security footage from last week. All cameras." Her reply came moments later. "Authorized. Be careful." Marcus began his investigation, cross-referencing employee movements with server access logs. On his second screen, he pulled up profiles of known Phoenix Tech operatives, his quantum algorithms processing patterns in their behavior. But his most important work was happening in his mind, where years of Wing Chun training had taught him to read intent in movement, to predict attacks before they began. The office grew darker, shadows lengthening across empty desks. In the distance, he heard the elevator ding. Footsteps approached, heavy, deliberate, trying too hard to sound casual. Marcus continued typing, his posture deliberately loose, projecting the image of an oblivious programmer working late. "Hey, buddy," a rough voice said behind him. "Keeping busy?" Marcus turned, pushing his glasses up his nose, the perfect picture of a startled nerd. But beneath his carefully crafted exterior, his muscles were coiled and ready. The true test of his skills, both digital and physical, was about to begin. The man behind Marcus was built like a football player gone to seed, his expensive suit failing to hide his athletic past. Two more men flanked him, their stances betraying military training. All three wore maintenance badges that Marcus knew were fake. He'd memorized every employee ID in the building during his first week. "Just catching up on some code," Marcus said, his voice carefully nervous. He let his hands tremble slightly as he adjusted his glasses, a technique his grandmother taught him for appearing weak. "The servers are acting up again." "Yeah? That's funny," the leader said, moving closer. "Because our sources say you're accessing security footage, looking for something specific." Marcus's mind raced through possible scenarios, calculating angles and distances, just as he would variables in a quantum equation. The nearest exit was 20 feet away. The stairwell required a keycard. The window... No, too high. His grandmother's voice whispered in his memory. "Sometimes the best defense is to let your opponent think they've won." I'm authorized," Marcus stammered, fumbling with his keycard. Ms. Wong gave me permission to..." "Cut the act, kid." The leader's friendly facade vanished. "We know you're trying to trace our operation, so here's the deal. You're going to take a nice little sabbatical, 3 months, maybe 6, full pay, courtesy of Phoenix Tech." The second man produced an envelope. "Your resignation letter, already typed up, Just needs your signature. Marcus noticed the third man subtly shifting position, cutting off the route to his desk drawer where he kept his grandmother's wooden box. They were professionals, all right. Unfortunately for them, they were professionals at the wrong kind of fighting. "And if I don't sign?" Marcus asked, letting genuine curiosity enter his voice. The leader smiled. "Then we stop being nice, starting with that pretty junior developer. Sarah, right? She walks home alone most nights, past that dark stretch on Cedar Street." Something shifted in Marcus's eyes, a micro-expression his grandmother had warned him about. "Control your killer intent," she'd said. "It's the only thing you can't hide." The leader caught it, his smile faltering slightly. For a fraction of a second, he saw something ancient and dangerous behind those thick-rimmed glasses, but professional arrogance quickly dismissed the warning. "Last chance, kid. Sign or—" Marcus moved. Not the wild swing they were expecting from a panicked programmer, but the explosive precision of Wing Chun's centerline theory. His palm strike caught the leader's solar plexus, channeling force through the man's core in a technique perfected over centuries. The leader folded like crashed software, all his momentum turning inward. Before the others could react, Marcus flowed into the second form his grandmother had drilled into him countless times. Close range, tight angles, minimal movement. His elbow caught the second man's throat while simultaneously sweeping the third man's leg. But these weren't street thugs. The third man rolled with the sweep, drawing a collapsible baton. The second man recovered quickly, dropping into a boxing stance. Both moved to flank him, their training evident in their coordinated approach. Marcus settled into his grandmother's favorite stance, knees bent, hands positioned for simultaneous defense and attack. "A true master," her voice echoed, "adapts to the battlefield." The men attacked simultaneously. Marcus let their momentum guide his responses, deflecting rather than blocking, striking nerve clusters and pressure points instead of large muscle groups. Wing Chun was designed for exactly this, close-quarters combat against larger opponents. The baton whistled past his ear as he stepped inside its arc. His chain punches targeted the third man's floating ribs, not to break, but to disrupt breathing and balance. The second man's cross was textbook perfect, but met only air as Marcus's stance shifted. "What the hell?" The second man gasped as another precision strike numbed his arm. He can't." The fight lasted exactly 43 seconds. When it ended, 3 Phoenix Tech contractors lay groaning on the office floor, disabled by techniques so subtle they couldn't quite explain what had happened. Marcus straightened his glasses, which hadn't moved during the entire encounter. He turned to his computer, typing quickly as the men struggled to stand. "I've just erased all security footage of the past 5 minutes, he said calmly. "That's my professional courtesy to you. Here's my personal advice. Tell Phoenix Tech that their quantum decryption attempts are based on flawed mathematics. Their current approach will collapse their entire network within 6 months." The leader, still clutching his midsection, managed to speak. You're not just some programmer." "No," Marcus agreed. "I'm a quantum physicist who spent 15 years learning Wing Chun from a grandmaster. And you just threatened my colleague." He helped them up, his grip firm but not aggressive. "That was your first mistake. Don't make another one." As the men limped toward the elevator, Marcus sent a quick text to Catherine. "We need to upgrade the security badges, and maybe install some cameras in the stairwell." Her reply was immediate. "Everything okay?" Marcus looked at his reflection in the darkened window. His grandmother had always said that true strength wasn't in hiding what you were, but in choosing when to reveal it. "Everything's fine," he texted back. "But I think Phoenix Tech just learned they're not the only ones who can execute a hostile takeover." The next morning, Quantum Dynamics buzzed with nervous energy. While no one had witnessed the late-night confrontation, people could sense something had changed. The security guards moved with heightened alertness, and Catherine spent 2 hours in meetings with the board of directors. Marcus arrived early as usual, but this time he wasn't alone in the gym. Sarah Chen was there, attempting to follow a self-defense video on her phone. Her movements were uncoordinated, desperate. "You're telegraphing your moves," Marcus said quietly, making her jump. Sorry, didn't mean to startle you. Sarah wiped sweat from her forehead, embarrassment coloring her cheeks. After what happened with my workstation, I thought I should learn to protect myself. Pretty pathetic, huh? Marcus thought of his grandmother's first lesson. The strongest tree grows from the smallest seed. He set down his bag. Your stance is wrong. May I? For the next hour, he taught her the basic Wing Chun horse stance, explaining the principles of centerline theory and efficient movement. Sarah proved to be a quick study, her programmer's mind grasping the geometric principles behind the martial art. It's like coding, she said, throwing a practice punch. Everything has to be precise, efficient. Exactly. My grandmother always said martial arts and mathematics share the same foundation, pattern recognition. Their session was interrupted by urgent footsteps. Catherine burst into the gym, her usual composure shattered. Marcus, we have a problem. Dr. Zhang never made it home last night. The next few hours were a blur of activity. Police were called, security footage reviewed, but Marcus saw the truth immediately. Phoenix Tech had escalated from intimidation to outright kidnapping. In the quantum lab, Marcus and Sarah worked feverishly to trace Dr. Zhang's last known movements. His encryption algorithms had left breadcrumbs, subtle patterns in the network traffic that only another quantum physicist would recognize. Look at this, Sarah pointed to her screen. These packets, they're using quantum entanglement principles for communication. Dr. Zhang must have modified our security protocols before he was taken. Marcus leaned closer, his eyes widening behind his glasses. He's brilliant. He's using our own quantum network to leave us a trail, but... He straightened, calculations racing through his mind. Phoenix Tech will detect this, they'll move him soon. The police said without proof of kidnapping, they can't... We're not going to wait for the police. Marcus opened his phone's Maps application. The quantum packets are bouncing through 3 locations. One's their main office, too obvious. Another's their data center, too secure. But the third... An abandoned tech incubator in East Palo Alto, Sarah finished, her fingers flying over the keyboard. Officially closed for renovation, but satellite imagery shows regular vehicle movement. Marcus touched the wooden box in his bag, feeling his grandmother's seal within. A true master knows when to strike, her voice whispered in his memory. I need you to do something for me, he told Sarah. In exactly 2 hours, send this code to their main network. It's a modified version of their quantum decryption attempt. It'll crash their security systems for exactly 6 minutes. You're going in there? Sarah's eyes widened. Alone? That's insane. These aren't just corporate thugs anymore. They're trained professionals, I know. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. Fortunately, I'm not just a programmer anymore. As he turned to leave, Sarah caught his arm. Wait. I could help. I can run interference from here, monitor their communications. Marcus studied her for a moment. Her fear was obvious, but underneath it was something his grandmother would have recognized. The steel core of a warrior's spirit. Okay, he said, sending her a secure messaging app invitation. But we do this smart. No risks, no heroics. If anything feels wrong, you call the police immediately. Back at his desk, Marcus pulled up the building plans for the incubator. His trained eye noted entry points, blind spots, likely guard positions. In his mind, he overlaid the patterns of classical Wing Chun forms with modern security protocols. Catherine found him there an hour later, his desk covered in diagrams and code printouts. The board wants to cooperate with Phoenix Tech, she said without preamble. They're talking about an orderly transition of assets. They're afraid, Marcus said, not looking up from his work. Of course they're afraid. Phoenix Tech just kidnapped our chief scientist. They're not going to stop until someone stops them. Marcus stood, gathering his things. Aunt Catherine, do you remember why grandmother sent me to train with her? After the MIT incident? You said some students tried to steal your research and things got physical. I hospitalized 3 people defending my work, Marcus said quietly. Grandmother taught me control, showed me how to use my skills to protect rather than hurt. But she also taught me that sometimes you have to show predators why they shouldn't hunt in your territory. Catherine studied her nephew's face, seeing perhaps for the first time the warrior beneath the programmer's exterior. "What are you planning?" "I'm going to debug their system," Marcus said, his glasses glinting in the fluorescent light. "Permanently." He headed for the elevator, sending one last message to Sarah. 90 minutes until showtime. Ready? Her reply came instantly. Ready. But Marcus, be careful. Phoenix Tech fights dirty. Marcus thought of his grandmother's courtyard, of thousands of hours spent perfecting each movement until it became part of his DNA. "Don't worry," he texted back. "They're about to learn that not all viruses come from computers." The abandoned tech incubator loomed against the darkening sky, its modernist glass facade now dulled by neglect. Marcus crouched behind a defunct electric vehicle charging station, observing the building's security patterns. His grandmother's training had taught him to read defensive formations like complex equations. Every variable mattered. "I count 6 exterior guards," Sarah's voice crackled through his earpiece. She'd hacked into Phoenix Tech's surveillance feeds. "They're using a rotating patrol pattern. And Marcus, they're all armed." Marcus checked his watch. 40 minutes until Sarah's code would crash their security. He'd need every second of those 6 minutes she could buy him. "Any sign of Dr. Zhang?" "Thermal imaging shows someone in a basement room. They've got quantum shielding active, probably to prevent him from sending more coded messages." A sleek black SUV pulled up to the building's entrance. Richard Kane stepped out, his expensive suit replaced by tactical gear. 4 more men followed him, carrying equipment cases. "They're moving something in," Sarah reported. "Heavy cases. Wait, I recognize that hardware. It's quantum computing equipment. They're going to force Dr. Zhang to complete their decryption algorithm." Marcus's fingers brushed the red seal in his pocket. His grandmother had given it to him the day he completed his training. "Remember," she'd said, "the seal doesn't make you a master. It reminds you of your responsibility to use your skills wisely." "Sarah, I need building schematics. Find me a way in that they won't expect." "Already on it. There's a maintenance tunnel for the old server cooling system. It's not on their security grid." A blueprint appeared on Marcus's phone. "But Marcus, even if you get inside, there are at least 12 more guards, and Kane's brought in special forces contractors." Marcus smiled slightly. "Numbers aren't everything. My grandmother once fought off 8 opponents using nothing but a wooden stool. This isn't some kung fu movie. These are trained killers with—" "Sarah." Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. "Do you trust me?" A pause. "Yes." "Then trust that my grandmother taught me more than just how to punch and kick. She taught me how to think, how to adapt, how to turn an opponent's strength against them." He started moving toward the maintenance tunnel. "Besides, we have something they don't." "What's that?" "We have you." The maintenance tunnel was narrow and damp, forcing Marcus to move slowly. His grandmother's voice guided his breathing. "Patience in preparation leads to swiftness in execution." Sarah's voice returned. "Guards changing rotation. You have 2 minutes before the next sweep." A pause. "Marcus, why did you really come to Silicon Valley? You could have stayed safe at MIT." Marcus thought about it as he navigated the tunnel. "My grandmother says that knowledge without purpose is like a sword without a wielder. I spent years learning both quantum physics and Wing Chun. Maybe it's time to use them for something more than just research papers." He reached the tunnel's end, finding himself in a defunct server room. Dust-covered racks threw strange shadows in the emergency lighting. Through the wall, he could hear voices. Kane arguing with someone. "Dr. Zhang, be reasonable. Your quantum decryption is revolutionary. Think of the possibilities." "You mean think of the bank accounts you could hack?" Dr. Zhang's voice was tired but defiant. "The corporate secrets you could steal." A sharp sound, a slap. Marcus's muscles tensed, but his grandmother's training held. "Anger clouds judgment," her voice whispered. "Let it fuel you, not control you." "Sarah, time check? 23 minutes until blackout." But Marcus, they're setting up quantum computing equipment. Once it's online, they won't need Dr. Zhang anymore. Marcus surveyed the room, his mind combining Wing Chun principles with tactical analysis. The server racks could provide cover. The raised floor panels could be weapons. Even the dust could be an advantage. He opened his phone's camera, using it to peek around corners. 2 guards at the main door. Another watching the emergency exit. And in the central area, Kane supervising as his men assembled quantum computing equipment. Sarah, I need you to do something. When you crash their system, can you trigger the fire suppression system first? The halon gas? Yes, but... Oh, the visual confusion when it releases. That's brilliant. My grandmother always said the best technique is the one your opponent doesn't see coming. Marcus began quietly moving server racks, creating channels of movement only he would recognize. Have you ever played chess? Of course. Why? In chess, the winning move often looks like a sacrifice at first. When I give the signal, I need you to... A scream cut through the building. Dr. Zhang's voice. I'll never help you destroy everything I've built. More sounds of struggle. Marcus's hands clenched. The schedule had just accelerated. Sarah, new plan. Crash their systems now. But we're not ready. The timing. Now! The lights went out. Emergency sirens wailed. And as the halon gas began hissing from the ceiling vents, Marcus Wong, quantum physicist and Wing Chun master, stepped into the chaos he had created. His grandmother's final lesson echoed in his mind. Remember, little dragon. In the darkest moment, shine brightest. The first guard never saw the strike that dropped him. The halon gas created a ghostly fog in the emergency lighting, turning Phoenix Tech's guards into shadowy silhouettes. Marcus moved through the chaos like water, his grandmother's training transforming the confined space into a deadly chessboard. Contact on your left. Sarah's voice guided him through his earpiece. Despite the crashed systems, she'd managed to maintain access to a few security cameras. Marcus flowed around a server rack as a guard rushed past, using Wing Chun's economy of movement to redirect the man's momentum. The guard's own weight sent him crashing into a wall. No wasted energy, just like his grandmother taught him. They're moving Dr. Zhang, Sarah's voice was urgent. Taking him to the quantum computing setup, Kane's with them. 2 more guards appeared through the mist, tactical flashlights cutting through the darkness. Marcus dropped low, remembering his grandmother's lessons about fighting multiple opponents. Let them create their own obstacles. He kicked a loose floor panel, sending it skittering across the room. The guards turned toward the sound, separating slightly. Perfect. Marcus struck the first guard's knee, then used the man's falling body to block the second guard's line of sight. A quick series of chain punches to pressure points, and both men crumpled. 4 down, he whispered to Sarah. How many active? 8 more, all converging on the main lab. Wait, something's wrong. They're setting up some kind of quantum dampening field. I'm losing camera feeds. Marcus pressed against a wall, controlling his breathing. The quantum dampening field explained their rush. They were preparing to force Dr. Zhang to complete the decryption algorithm without leaving any electronic traces. Sarah, can you get a message to Catherine? We need... His earpiece crackled with static, then went dead. The quantum dampening field was expanding, cutting off all communications. Marcus was on his own. His grandmother's voice filled his mind. When all external advantages are gone, rely on your foundations. Moving silently through the fog, Marcus approached the main lab. Through the glass walls, he could see Dr. Zhang being forced into a chair in front of the quantum computing equipment. Kane stood over him, phone in hand. The dampening field is active, Kane was saying. No more clever-coded messages. You have 1 hour to complete the decryption algorithm, or we start breaking things, starting with your fingers. Marcus counted the remaining guards. 3 by the door, 2 with Dr. Zhang and 3 patrolling the perimeter. Kane made 9. The odds weren't good, but as his grandmother always said, numbers mean nothing if you control the battlefield. He reached into his pocket, touching her red seal one last time. Then he began implementing the strategy he'd learned over 15 years of training: divide, isolate, disable. First, he triggered the fire alarm he'd manually rewired earlier. The strobing lights added to the confusion of the halon gas. 2 guards immediately moved to check the alarm panel. Classic security protocol, and exactly what he'd expected. Marcus struck them both before they'd gone 10 steps, using Wing Chun's close-quarters techniques to neutralize them silently. 7 opponents remained. The next phase was trickier. He needed to draw the perimeter guards away from the lab without alerting Kane. His eyes fell on the server racks he'd repositioned earlier. With a careful push, he sent one crashing into another, creating a domino effect of falling equipment. "Check it out," one guard called. 2 more moved toward the noise. Marcus was ready. He used the fallen servers as improvised obstacles, forcing the guards to separate as they investigated. One by one, they went down, never seeing more than a shadow in the swirling gas. 4 opponents left, 3 guards and Kane. Inside the lab, Dr. Zhang was stalling, accidentally entering incorrect equations into the quantum computer. Kane's patience was visibly wearing thin. "Last chance, old man," Kane growled, grabbing Dr. Zhang's collar. "The next mistake will cost you." Marcus had a clear view through the glass wall. The remaining guards were well positioned, covering all conventional angles of attack. But his grandmother hadn't taught him to think conventionally. He reached up and removed his glasses, carefully setting them aside. Then he took a stance his grandmother had drilled into him thousands of times. Not a fighting pose, but a geometric form designed to channel energy efficiently. "Remember," she'd told him, "Wing Chun was created by a woman to defeat larger, stronger opponents. It's not about power, it's about precision." Marcus exploded into motion. He used the glass wall itself as a weapon, striking it at specific points to create a pattern of cracks. The reinforced glass held, but the spiderweb of fractures blocked the guards' line of sight. Before they could reposition, Marcus was through the door. His first strike disabled the nearest guard's shoulder. His elbow found another solar plexus. The third guard managed to throw a punch, but Marcus slipped inside his reach, delivering a rapid series of hits to nerve clusters. Kane shoved Dr. Zhang aside and drew a pistol, but Marcus had already closed the distance. His palm strike knocked the weapon away, and then they were trading blows at close range. Kane was good, military trained, experienced in multiple combat styles, but Marcus had spent 15 years learning an art specifically designed to defeat such opponents. Each of Kane's powerful strikes was deflected, his strength turned against him, his balance disrupted by subtle shifts in pressure. What are you?" Kane gasped as another strike failed to land. Marcus channeled his grandmother's teaching style. "I'm a quantum physicist who knows how to calculate the precise force needed to disrupt your nervous system." His final sequence of strikes left Kane unconscious on the floor, his tactical gear offering no protection against techniques honed over centuries of combat. Dr. Zhang stared at Marcus, bewildered. "How did you—" "Simple geometry," Marcus said, retrieving his glasses. "Force equals mass times acceleration, applied at the correct angles." He helped the scientist up. "Are you hurt?" "No, Behind you." Marcus spun, but he needn't have worried. Sarah Chen stood in the doorway, a security baton in her hands and an unconscious guard at her feet. "Sorry I'm late," she said, trying to sound casual despite her shaking hands. "The quantum dampening field crashed my network, so I had to improvise." Marcus smiled. His grandmother would have approved. The following morning, Silicon Valley's tech news websites exploded with headlines about Phoenix Tech. Anonymous sources had leaked videos of armed contractors attacking Quantum Dynamics employees. Police cruisers surrounded Phoenix Tech's headquarters, and Richard Kane was being led out in handcuffs, his tactical gear replaced by a rumpled business suit. But in Quantum Dynamics' quantum computing lab, Marcus had more immediate concerns. "They copied part of the algorithm," Dr. Zhang said, reviewing the compromised code. "Not enough to make it work, but enough to be dangerous, like giving a child half the instructions for building a nuclear reactor." Sarah, sporting a butterfly bandage above her eye from last night's encounter, leaned over the quantum computer's display. "They'll have backup servers, hidden facilities. Kane was just the visible part of their operation." Marcus nodded, remembering his grandmother's lessons about victory. Defeating an opponent is easy. Preventing them from rising again, that requires strategy. Catherine burst into the lab, her phone buzzing constantly. The board is in chaos. Phoenix Tech's stock is crashing, and their partners are distancing themselves, but... She looked at Marcus. Their quantum computing division has gone dark. Complete communications blackout. Marcus's fingers flew over the keyboard, bringing up network diagnostics. They're reorganizing. Last night wasn't just a defeat, it was a lesson. They know what they're up against now. What they're up against, Sarah said, is a kung fu master who happens to be a quantum physicist. She paused. That still sounds weird to say out loud. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. My grandmother would say it's not as weird as a tech company hiring mercenaries to steal quantum algorithms. A notification popped up on his screen, an encrypted message bouncing through quantum relays. The decryption revealed a simple text. Impressive skills, both digital and physical. Would you like to discuss a merger? They're not giving up, Catherine said, reading over his shoulder. And now they know what you can do. Marcus thought about the previous night, about how smoothly Sarah had adapted to the crisis, about Dr. Zhang's resilience under pressure. His grandmother had taught him that true strength came from unity of purpose, not individual skill. Good, he said, because now we know what we can do too. He turned to Sarah. How are those self-defense lessons coming along? Sarah straightened, unconsciously shifting into a Wing Chun stance. I've been practicing. But you think they'll try again? Companies like Phoenix Tech are like the opponents my grandmother used to warn me about. They mistake brutality for strength. Marcus brought up the partial algorithm Phoenix Tech had stolen. They'll try to complete this, probably recruit other quantum scientists. When that fails, they'll come back with everything they have. Dr. Zhang sighed. Perhaps we should shut down the project. The quantum decryption key is too dangerous. Or, Marcus said, we could make it safer. His fingers danced across the keyboard, modifying quantum patterns. Sarah, remember how you said Wing Chun was like coding? Everything precise, efficient? Yeah? What if we applied martial arts principles to quantum encryption? Instead of just protecting data, we create algorithms that adapt, that turn attacks back on themselves. Dr. Zhang leaned forward, intrigued. Quantum martial arts? That's actually brilliant. We could use entanglement principles to create self-defending systems. Catherine's phone buzzed again. Phoenix Tech's board just called an emergency meeting. Word is they're bringing in new leadership, someone with a military background. Then we better get to work. Marcus opened his phone, pulling up his grandmother's contact. But first I need to make a call. We're going to need more training space. 2 hours later, the quantum dynamics gym had been transformed. Training mats covered the floor, and Sarah was leading a group of developers through basic Wing Chun stances. In the corner, Marcus was showing Dr. Zhang how quantum entanglement patterns matched classical martial arts forms. Your grandmother, Sarah asked during a break, did she ever imagine her art would be used like this? Marcus watched his colleagues, seeing not just programmers and scientists, but potential warriors. She always said Wing Chun was about evolution, taking ancient wisdom and applying it to modern challenges. His phone lit up with a message from his grandmother. Coming to help train your new students. Bring the seal. It's time to start your own school, one that bridges two worlds. Catherine joined them, watching the impromptu class. The board approved our new security program. We're officially integrating physical defense training with our quantum security protocols. She smiled. They're calling it Project Wing Chun. Marcus touched the red seal in his pocket, feeling its ancient wisdom connecting with the cutting-edge technology around him. His grandmother had taught him that every ending was just a new beginning. Phoenix Tech had tried to steal their future, but instead, they'd helped create something unprecedented, a fusion of quantum computing and martial arts that would change Silicon Valley forever. Sarah, he said, Let's show them the application of force equals mass times acceleration. I think it's time Silicon Valley learned some new algorithms. Outside, the sun set behind the tech campuses and startup incubators, casting long shadows across the valley. In quantum dynamics gym, ancient wisdom met modern innovation, creating something neither Phoenix Tech nor anyone else would see coming. The real fight was just beginning. 1 week after the Phoenix Tech incident, Marcus's grandmother, Master Mei Wong, arrived at San Jose International Airport. Despite her 70 years, she moved with the fluid grace of a martial artist half her age. Her traditional Chinese clothing drew curious glances from passing tech workers, but her presence commanded instant respect. "Ah, Silicon Valley," she said, surveying the landscape of glass buildings and electric cars. "So many people fighting battles with keyboards, they've forgotten the wisdom of physical combat." Marcus smiled, carrying her bags. "Actually, that's changing. The training program is growing faster than we expected." Inside quantum dynamics, the transformation was evident. The once sterile office space now included a dedicated training area where developers practiced Wing Chun forms between coding sessions. Sarah had proven to be an exceptional student, already helping to teach beginners. "Good structure," Master Wong commented, watching Sarah correct another developer's stance. "She understands the geometry of movement." "She's also helping me integrate martial arts principles into our quantum security," Marcus said. "We're calling it dynamic defense programming." His grandmother's eyes sparkled with interest. "Show me." In the quantum lab, Marcus and Dr. Zhang demonstrated their new security system. On multiple screens, quantum algorithms flowed like martial arts forms, adapting and responding to simulated attacks. "See how the code redirects hostile intrusions?" Marcus explained. "It uses the same principles as Wing Chun: economy of movement, centerline theory, simultaneous defense, and attack." Master Wong nodded approvingly, but her expression turned serious. "Impressive. But your opponents will not rest. Phoenix Tech's new leadership. Tell me about them." Marcus brought up a file on his tablet. "General James Cooper, former cyber warfare commander. He's transformed their quantum computing division into something called Project Prometheus. They're recruiting both hackers and ex-military." "Combining digital and physical threats," his grandmother mused. "Just as you combine quantum physics and Wing Chun, the universe seeks balance even in conflict." A notification flashed on Marcus's screen. Multiple unauthorized attempts to access their quantum network. Sarah rushed in, her tablet displaying similar alerts. "They're probing our defenses," she reported. "Different attack pattern than before. More sophisticated." Master Wong moved to the window, gazing at the tech campus below. In traditional warfare, such probes often precede a major assault. They are testing, learning, adapting. Marcus's fingers flew over the keyboard, reinforcing their quantum defenses. "The new algorithms are holding, but wait," he frowned. "These attacks aren't just testing our security. They're mapping it, learning its patterns. Like studying an opponent's fighting style," his grandmother said, "to understand how they move, how they think." Sarah's tablet beeped urgently. "Marcus, they're not just attacking our network. Someone's been following our employees, photographing the training sessions through the windows. They're studying both sides of our defense." Master Wong placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "You have taught your colleagues to bridge the digital and physical worlds. Now they must learn to defend both simultaneously." "But how?" Sarah asked. "We can't watch everyone all the time." "No," the old master smiled. "But we can teach them to watch themselves." She moved to the center of the lab. "Bring your students, all of them. It's time for a special lesson." An hour later, the entire quantum computing team gathered in the training area. Master Wong stood before them, her small frame radiating authority. "Your enemies believe they can separate your digital strength from your physical defense," she began. "This is their mistake. Just as quantum particles can be entangled, your mind and body must work as one." She demonstrated a simple Wing Chun technique, then showed how its principles paralleled their quantum algorithms. See? The same mathematics that governs your code governs your movements. Energy, efficiency, adaptation. Marcus watched his grandmother teaching, remembering his own training. She was showing them more than just self-defense. She was teaching them to think holistically, to see the connections between all forms of combat. Sarah approached him, speaking quietly. Phoenix Tech's probes are changing. They're not just mapping our defenses anymore. They're looking for something specific. Marcus nodded. The quantum decryption key. Cooper must think we have a physical copy somewhere. Do we? But they don't know that. Marcus watched the training session, an idea forming. Maybe we can use their assumptions against them. Create a honeypot, both digital and physical. His grandmother caught his eye from across the room, giving him a slight nod. She had taught him well. The best defense was to make your opponent defeat themselves. Later, reviewing security footage, Marcus spotted something concerning. A reflection in a window, a shadow moving unnaturally, the faintest hint of surveillance technology. They're closer than we thought, he told Sarah and his grandmother. Cooper isn't just studying us. He's preparing for something big. Master Wong remained calm. Good. Let them come. They expect to find programmers playing at martial arts. Instead, they will find warriors who understand both the classical and quantum worlds. Sarah's tablet lit up with new alerts. Multiple breaches detected in other tech companies. Phoenix Tech is expanding their attacks. Testing different approaches, Marcus said. Looking for weaknesses. His grandmother picked up her red seal, its ancient wisdom now paired with cutting-edge technology. Then we must prepare not just for our own defense, but for the protection of others. She turned to Marcus. You began this fusion of old and new arts. Now you must take it further. Thunder rolled across Silicon Valley as storm clouds gathered. In Quantum Dynamics' Quantum Lab, ancient martial arts and modern technology were about to face their greatest test. The real battle for Silicon Valley's future was about to begin. The attack came at midnight, but not where they expected. Instead of targeting Quantum Dynamics directly, Phoenix Tech struck 3 smaller tech companies simultaneously. Their quantum-based cyber attacks crippled security systems, while tactical teams breached physical defenses. It's a message, Marcus said, watching the chaos unfold on multiple screens in the Quantum Lab. They're showing what happens to companies without our protection. Sarah nodded, her fingers flying over her keyboard. The attacked companies all declined our offer to implement dynamic defense programming last week. They thought traditional security was enough. Master Wong stood behind them, watching the surveillance feeds with narrowed eyes. General Cooper is clever. He attacks the weak to draw out the strong. The Quantum Lab's secure phone rang, Catherine calling from an emergency board meeting. The other companies are panicking, they're begging for our protection now. The board wants to fast-track dynamic defense deployment. It's a trap, Marcus said. Cooper wants us to spread ourselves thin, protect too many targets at once. His grandmother placed a hand on his shoulder. Sometimes the best way to defeat a trap is to spring it deliberately. Marcus looked at her, understanding dawning. You want us to accept all the protection requests, even knowing it's what Cooper wants? In Wing Chun, we learn to use our opponent's strength against them. Let them think their strategy succeeds. Sarah pulled up a map of Silicon Valley, marking the companies requesting help. We don't have enough trained people to protect all these locations. Then we must accelerate the training, Master Wong said. She turned to Marcus. Show me your latest quantum defensive algorithms. On the main screen, Marcus displayed the code that merged martial arts principles with quantum computing. Complex patterns flowed like choreographed combat movements, each line of code a potential strike or block. The algorithms adapt like a Wing Chun practitioner, he explained. They learn from each attack, improve their responses. His grandmother studied the patterns, then smiled. Yes, now we add another layer. She demonstrated a complex martial arts technique. This form teaches how to defend multiple positions simultaneously. Can your code learn such movements? For the next hour, They worked to translate classical martial arts strategies into quantum computing principles. Sarah's expertise in network architecture proved crucial, helping to implement Master Wong's centuries-old wisdom in digital form. "Look at this," Sarah said suddenly. "The attack patterns on the three companies. They're not random. They're following classical military formations, adapted for cyber warfare." Marcus enhanced the data visualization. "Cooper's using his military background. These patterns..." He looked at his grandmother. "They're like the techniques you warned me about, the ones used by corrupt martial arts schools to overwhelm legitimate teachers." "Yes," Master Wong nodded. "They seek to exhaust us by forcing us to defend everywhere at once. But remember your training. What seems like weakness can become strength." A new alert flashed on their screens. More companies were under attack, their digital defenses crumbling. But something felt off about the pattern. "Wait," Marcus said, studying the data. "These new attacks, they're too perfect, too precise." His fingers flew over the keyboard, digging deeper into the threat analysis. Sarah caught on. "They're automated. Cooper's using AI-driven attack systems, combining quantum computing with military strategy algorithms." "Which means," Marcus smiled, "they can be predicted." "Sarah, help me modify the defensive code. We need to incorporate the 36 classical strategies." His grandmother watched with approval as they worked, martial arts philosophy merging with cutting-edge technology. The new defensive systems would not just react to attacks. They would anticipate them, using ancient wisdom to predict modern threats. Across Silicon Valley, Phoenix Tech's attacks continued, probing for weaknesses. But now, with each attempt, the dynamic defense systems grew stronger, learning and adapting like seasoned martial artists. "They're pulling back," Sarah reported after an hour, attack intensity dropping at all locations. Marcus checked their system logs. "The AI attackers can't adapt to our defensive patterns. They're programmed for conventional security responses, not quantum martial arts." Master Wong nodded approvingly. Cooper thought technology alone would give him victory. He forgot that true strength comes from harmony between old and new. But even as they celebrated this small victory, Marcus noticed something concerning in the attack data, a hidden pattern, almost invisible beneath the obvious assaults. "They're not just attacking," he realized. "They're mapping our responses, learning how we think. This was never about disabling those companies. It was reconnaissance." Sarah paled. "For what?" Before Marcus could answer, every screen in the lab lit up with a new alert. A quantum-encrypted message from General Cooper himself. "Impressive adaptation of martial arts principles. Your grandmother taught you well. But remember, every defense has a breaking point. See you soon." The message vanished, leaving behind a digital signature that made Marcus's blood run cold. Cooper hadn't just studied military strategy and quantum computing. He'd mastered something else, something familiar. "That signature," his grandmother said quietly, "it's based on the forms of Northern Shaolin Kung Fu. Cooper is not just a military man, he's a martial artist." Marcus thought of his training, of all the lessons about combining different styles of combat. Cooper was doing the same thing they were, merging ancient arts with modern technology. But while quantum dynamics sought to protect, Phoenix Tech aimed to destroy. The real battle would require mastery of both worlds. "Sarah," Marcus said, "activate all the new defensive protocols." "Grandmother, I think it's time for advanced lessons." Storm clouds gathered over Silicon Valley as two masters of quantum kung fu prepared for war. 3 days after Cooper's message, Master Wong put Quantum Dynamics' entire development team through an intensive training session. The office gym had become a fusion of ancient dojo and modern tech hub, with developers practicing Wing Chun forms while monitoring quantum defense algorithms on their tablets. "Your body must move like your code," Master Wong instructed, adjusting a programmer's stance. "Efficient, precise, adaptable." Marcus watched from his laptop where he was analyzing Cooper's digital signature. The Northern Shaolin patterns were unmistakable, but modified with military precision. "Grandmother," Cooper's not just any martial artist. These forms, they're Master Chen's advanced techniques. Master Wong's expression darkened. Jin Chen. I know him. 30 years ago, he was expelled from the Martial Arts Council for using his skills for military exploitation. He must be training Cooper. Sarah, who had become proficient enough to help teach basic forms, joined them. The attacks have changed pattern again. They're targeting our quantum encrypted communications now, using some kind of hybrid martial arts algorithm. A notification flashed across Marcus's screen. Another message from Cooper. Your dynamic defense system is impressive, but how will it handle a master of both digital and physical combat? Meet me tomorrow, noon. Bring your grandmother's seal. Let's settle this the traditional way. Attached were coordinates for an abandoned tech campus on the outskirts of San Jose. It's a trap, Sarah said immediately. He'll have his tactical teams waiting. Master Wong studied the message. Perhaps, but there's something else. Cooper is following ancient challenge protocols. This is as much about honor as victory. Marcus ran quantum analysis on the location. The campus has its own quantum computing center. Phoenix Tech must have acquired it secretly. He looked at his grandmother. If we don't go, they'll just keep attacking other companies. Then we go, Master Wong decided. But we go prepared, in both worlds. They spent the next hours preparing. While Sarah and Dr. Zhang modified their quantum defenses for mobile deployment, Marcus and his grandmother practiced advanced Wing Chun techniques specifically designed to counter Northern Shaolin. Cooper will expect traditional responses, Master Wong explained, demonstrating a complex sequence. We must show him something new, something that bridges past and future. Marcus nodded, understanding. Just as they had merged martial arts with quantum computing, they needed to evolve the physical techniques themselves. Catherine burst into the training room. The board is split. Half want to accept Cooper's challenge, thinking it will end the attacks. The other half want to go to the authorities. The authorities can't help with this, Marcus said. Cooper's operating in a space between legal boundaries, just like he operates between traditional combat and modern warfare. Sarah's tablet lit up with urgent alerts. Phoenix Tech just launched a new wave of attacks. Smaller companies all over the valley. Their quantum security is being shredded. Master Wong watched the data flowing across the screens. They demonstrate their power, force us to respond. She turned to Marcus. Your mother, my daughter, believed technology could protect people. That's why she became an engineer. Now you must prove her right. Marcus touched the red seal in his pocket, thinking of his mother's dreams of using technology for defense, never attack. We'll need every advantage. Sarah, can you modify our quantum algorithms to work with portable devices? Already on it. I've coded a new version that runs on quantum-enabled smartphones. We'll have digital support even in the field. Through the windows, they could see other tech companies' buildings going dark as Phoenix Tech's attacks intensified. Silicon Valley's digital infrastructure was under siege. They're burning the village to draw out the warriors, Master Wong observed. A classic strategy, but with modern weapons. Marcus made his decision. We accept the challenge, but on our terms. Sarah, I need you coordinating our quantum defenses remotely. Dr. Zhang, prepare the mobile quantum units. Grandmother ... I will watch your back, she said simply, as I watched your mother's. They worked through the night, preparing for what would be both an ancient duel and a modern cyber battle. Marcus practiced his forms while running quantum simulations, merging physical and digital muscle memory. At dawn, Sarah made a discovery that changed everything. These attack patterns, they're not just Northern Shaolin. Cooper's integrated techniques from multiple styles, all translated into quantum algorithms. Master Wong studied the data. Yes, Wing Chun, Northern Shaolin, military strategy, all combined through technology. He seeks to create a perfect fusion of old and new. But that's what we've been doing, Marcus said. No, his grandmother corrected. We seek harmony between traditions. Cooper seeks to dominate them, bend them to his will. That is why he will fail. The sun rose over Silicon Valley, its light reflecting off glass buildings and solar panels. In quantum dynamics' transformed office, ancient wisdom and cutting-edge innovation had forged something unique, a new way of defending against those who would use power selfishly. Marcus checked his quantum-enabled phone one last time. Their defensive algorithms were ready. His body was prepared. In his pocket, his grandmother's seal reminded him of generations of warriors who had adapted their arts to face new challenges. "Time to show Silicon Valley," he said, "that the best firewall is the one that knows Kung Fu." The final battle for the soul of Silicon Valley was about to begin. The abandoned tech campus loomed before them like a digital fortress. Once a promising startup hub, now its glass surfaces reflected the morning sun with an ominous gleam. Marcus, his grandmother, and Dr. Zhang approached the main entrance while Sarah coordinated remotely from their quantum lab. "Security systems are active," Sarah's voice came through their quantum-encrypted earpieces, "but different from previous Phoenix Tech signatures. These are hybrid, like they're running on both classical and quantum computers simultaneously." Master Wong studied the building's architecture. The design follows feng shui principles. Cooper's master, Jin Chen, always believed in combining traditional wisdom with modern function. Marcus checked his quantum-enabled phone. Their defensive algorithms were running smoothly, adapting to the hybrid security systems. "They're watching us. Multiple surveillance points, both digital and physical." "Let them watch," his grandmother said. "In Wing Chun, we learn that observation goes both ways." They entered the lobby, their footsteps echoing off marble floors. The space was pristine, too well maintained for an abandoned building. Screens lined the walls, suddenly flickering to life with Cooper's face. "Welcome to the future of combat." Cooper's voice resonated through hidden speakers. "Where ancient arts meet quantum computing. Impressive what you've done with Wing Chun's principles, Dr. Wong. But Northern Shaolin has its own secrets." The screens filled with cascading code, attack algorithms based on martial arts forms. Sarah's voice crackled with urgency. "Multiple systems going dark across Silicon Valley. He's using this confrontation as cover for a valley-wide strike." "Of course," Cooper smiled. "Why waste a good distraction? Now shall we begin our little demonstration?" The lobby's glass doors sealed shut. From side corridors, armed figures emerged. Not just security personnel, but martial artists in tactical gear. Their movements were synchronized, both with each other and with the building's security systems. "My quantum-enhanced combat team," Cooper explained. "Each connected to our AI through neural links. Perfect fusion of human skill and digital precision." Marcus positioned himself back-to-back with his grandmother, their stances mirroring each other. Dr. Zhang activated their mobile quantum units, creating a defensive digital perimeter. "Sarah," Marcus said quietly, "initiate Protocol Dragon." "Running it now." "But Marcus, their hybrid systems are like nothing we've seen. They're using martial arts forms as base code." The first attack came simultaneously in both realms. As Cooper's team moved in with military precision, their neural links triggered automated security responses. Doors slammed, cameras swiveled, and defensive turrets emerged from the walls. Master Wong moved like water, her traditional robes flowing as she deflected the first attacker's strike. "Their techniques are rigid, too dependent on digital enhancement. Show them true harmony." Marcus engaged two opponents, his Wing Chun techniques flowing seamlessly while his quantum algorithms countered their digital advantages. Each physical move was amplified by their defensive software, creating a perfect blend of ancient art and modern technology. "Dr. Zhang," he called out, "the quantum interference pattern." The elderly scientist activated a specially designed quantum field, disrupting the neural links between Cooper's team and their AI support. Several attackers stumbled, their enhanced reflexes temporarily confused. "Clever," Cooper's voice echoed, "but predictable. Jin Chen taught me that true mastery means being able to fight blind." New attackers emerged, these ones moving with pure physical skill. Their techniques were a complex fusion of Northern Shaolin and military combat training. Marcus, Sarah's voice was urgent. The valley-wide attacks are accelerating. Major companies are going dark. Whatever you're going to do it fast. Master Wong intercepted a brutal kick aimed at Marcus, turning the attacker's force against him. Remember your training. Every technique has its counter, every system its flaw. Marcus blocked a series of strikes while his mind raced through quantum calculations. Cooper's hybrid approach was formidable, but it revealed something crucial about his strategy. He's using traditional forms as encryption keys, Marcus realized. Sarah, analyze the attack patterns against other companies. They should match classical martial arts sequences. Already on it. You're right. Each digital strike follows a specific kung fu form, but they're moving too fast to counter. Marcus smiled grimly. Unless you know the forms by heart. He keyed a new sequence into his quantum device while shifting into an advanced Wing Chun stance. Grandmother, remember how you taught me to counter Northern Shaolin's 5-element fist? Master Wong's eyes lit up with understanding. Use their strength against them, in both worlds. Their defensive algorithms morphed, taking on the characteristics of traditional Wing Chun counters. Across Silicon Valley, Phoenix Tech's attacks began meeting unexpected resistance. Impossible. Cooper's voice held a new edge of concern. You can't be protecting the entire valley. Wrong, Marcus said, dispatching another attacker with a precise strike. We're teaching it to protect itself. Every counter we demonstrate here is being learned by our valley-wide quantum defense network. Through their earpieces, they heard Sarah laugh triumphantly. It's working. Companies are coming back online. Their systems evolved to counter the martial arts-based attacks. But Cooper wasn't finished. The screens showed his face, now hard with determination. Impressive. But now it's time for the master class. A door opened at the far end of the lobby. General Cooper stepped out, wearing a sleek combat suit lined with quantum processors. Behind him stood an elderly Chinese man in traditional Northern Shaolin robes, Master Jin Chen himself. Let's see how your hybrid style handles the original masters, Cooper said, dropping into a fighting stance as quantum energy coursed through his enhanced suit. The real test was about to begin. The lobby fell silent as Master Jin Chen stepped forward, his weathered face showing no emotion. Miss Wong, he bowed slightly to Marcus's grandmother. It has been 30 years since the council. You haven't aged a day. Flattery from a fallen master, Master Wong replied, her stance relaxed but ready. Still teaching others to corrupt our arts? Corrupt? Cooper's quantum-enhanced suit hummed with power. We're evolving them, taking them beyond their primitive limitations. Show them, Master Chen. The elderly master's hands flickered through a complex pattern. Instantly, the building's quantum systems responded, creating a cage of energy fields around Marcus and his allies. Traditional martial arts movements were now controlling cutting-edge technology. Sarah, Marcus spoke quietly into his comm. How's the valley holding up? We're barely containing their attacks. Whatever they're doing in there is powering quantum strikes across the entire region. We need to end this fast. Marcus analyzed the energy cage while his grandmother engaged Chen in verbal sparring. The quantum fields followed classical Northern Shaolin energy meridians, powerful but predictable to those who knew the forms. Their mistake, he realized, is thinking power equals control. He shifted into the most basic Wing Chun stance, one his grandmother had drilled into him thousands of times. As he moved, their defensive algorithms adapted, creating ripples in the quantum cage. Ah, Master Wong smiled, understanding her grandson's strategy. The simplest cup holds the most water. Cooper charged, his enhanced suit making him impossibly fast. But Marcus flowed around the attack like water, using Wing Chun's efficiency of movement. Each dodge created more disruptions in the quantum field. Your technology makes you strong, Marcus said, deflecting Cooper's strikes. But it doesn't teach you to feel the energy flow. Master Chen joined the attack, his traditional techniques seamlessly blending with Cooper's enhanced combat style. Marcus found himself defending against a perfect fusion of old and new, exactly what they had been trying to create at Quantum Dynamics. Dr. Zhang, he called out while dodging a quantum-enhanced kick. The resonance pattern. The elderly scientist activated their mobile quantum units at precise frequencies. The harmonics interfered with Cooper's suit, creating microsecond gaps in his enhanced reactions. "Sarah, are you seeing this?" Marcus asked, launching a counterattack. "Got it." Their quantum network follows the same patterns, sending valley-wide updates now. Master Wong engaged Chen directly, their decades-old rivalry manifesting in a blur of traditional forms. "You always sought power over wisdom, Jin," she said, deflecting his strikes. "That's why the Council expelled you." The Council was afraid of progress. Chen's techniques grew more aggressive. "Afraid to see our arts evolve." "No," Marcus countered, landing a precise strike on Cooper's suit. They were afraid of people using progress as an excuse for dominance. The battle flowed across the lobby like a deadly dance, each movement affecting both physical and digital realms. Cooper's suit sparked with quantum energy, while Chen's traditional techniques manipulated the building's systems. But something was changing. The more they fought, the more Marcus understood the pattern. Cooper and Chen weren't truly integrating their styles. They were forcing them together, creating power but losing harmony. "Grandmother," he called out, "remember the lesson of yin and yang?" Master Wong's eyes lit up. Opposition creates opportunity. They moved in perfect synchronization, their Wing Chun forms amplified by quantum algorithms that grew from their techniques rather than controlling them. Where Cooper and Chen sought to dominate two worlds, Marcus and his grandmother moved between them naturally. "Sarah," Marcus said while countering a complex attack sequence, "initiate the final protocol. Show the Valley what true harmony looks like." Throughout Silicon Valley, their defensive networks began shifting, adopting the principles they were demonstrating in combat. Power flowed like chi, digital and physical energies finding natural balance. Cooper's suit began to malfunction, its forced quantum enhancement fighting against its user's natural movements. What are you doing?" "Teaching," Marcus answered, his techniques flowing smoother than ever. Technology shouldn't override tradition. It should grow from it. Master Chen watched as his former student struggled, realization dawning in his eyes. The Council. They saw this coming, didn't they? They saw the danger of forcing harmony, Master Wong confirmed. True power comes from letting it emerge naturally. With a final surge of energy, Cooper's suit overloaded. The quantum cage collapsed and Phoenix Tech's valley-wide attacks began to fail. Their forced fusion of styles had proven unstable against true integration. "Marcus!" Sarah's voice was triumphant. "Companies across the valley are stabilizing. Their systems are learning to flow with the attacks instead of just blocking them." Cooper fell to one knee, his suit powering down. Master Chen stepped back, watching as decades of philosophy were proven right or wrong in a single moment. "Your grandmother," Chen said quietly to Marcus. "She always said the next generation would show us the true path forward." It seems she was right. The lobby grew quiet, except for the hum of quantum processors finding their natural rhythm. The battle for Silicon Valley's soul had been won not through dominance of either tradition or technology, but through their genuine harmony. And in that moment, ancient wisdom and modern innovation found their balance. 1 month after the confrontation at the abandoned tech campus, quantum dynamics had transformed. The office space now seamlessly integrated a traditional training hall with their quantum computing facilities. Developers moved between coding stations and training mats, their movements showing the same fluid efficiency in both realms. Marcus stood with Sarah and his grandmother, watching a new batch of tech companies' representatives learning basic Wing Chun stances while their phones ran diagnostic algorithms. "The Council is impressed," Master Wong said, adjusting a programmer's form. "They've officially recognized dynamic defense as a legitimate evolution of traditional martial arts." Sarah, now wearing her own instructor's sash, smiled. "And the tech industry is finally understanding that true cybersecurity isn't just about bigger firewalls." Their quantum defense network had proven its worth. After Phoenix Tech's collapse, other companies had tried similar brute force approaches to combining martial arts with technology. None had succeeded against quantum dynamics' evolved system. "How's Cooper adjusting?" Marcus asked, checking the latest security protocols on his tablet. "Surprisingly well," Sarah replied. "The Federal Cyber Defense Program is keeping him busy. Turns out his insights are valuable, once you remove the desire for dominance." Master Chen had taken a different path. After the battle, he'd requested permission to study their integrated approach. Now he taught at a special program combining classical training with quantum theory, helping bridge the gap between traditional masters and tech innovators. Catherine burst from her office, tablet in hand. "You need to see this. The Quantum Security Standards Committee just released their new guidelines. They're recommending our dynamic defense protocols as the industry baseline." Marcus smiled, remembering his grandmother's words about small seeds growing into strong trees. What had started as a way to protect one company had evolved into a new paradigm for the entire industry. "Your mother would be proud," Master Wong said softly. "She always believed technology should protect, not dominate." The Quantum Lab's screens displayed real-time data from across Silicon Valley. Companies that had adopted their integrated approach showed remarkable resilience against both digital and physical threats. The harmony they'd achieved between old and new had proven more powerful than any forced combination. Dr. Zhang emerged from his office, excitement visible on his face. "Marcus, the quantum pattern recognition algorithms are showing something extraordinary. The defensive systems, they're developing their own forms." They gathered around his screens, watching as their quantum networks evolved new protection protocols based on classical martial arts principles. Just as martial arts styles had naturally developed over centuries, their digital defenses were finding their own paths to efficiency. "It's beautiful," Sarah said, seeing the correlation between physical forms and quantum algorithms. "Like digital chi flowing through silicon meridians." A notification popped up, another tech company requesting training. But this one was different. "It's from Shanghai," Marcus noted. "The council must be spreading the word." "The world is ready," his grandmother nodded. "The ancient masters knew that true arts must evolve or die. We've shown one path forward. Others will find their own ways." Marcus touched the red seal, now displayed proudly in their training area. It had come to represent not just traditional mastery, but the bridge between worlds they'd managed to build. "We should celebrate," Sarah suggested. 1 month since we saved Silicon Valley, and everything we've achieved since. "Ah," Master Wong's eyes twinkled. "Then perhaps it's time for the next step." She nodded to Dr. Zhang, who retrieved an ornate box from his office. Inside lay 2 items, a new red seal and a quantum processor designed to match its patterns. "The Council and the tech industry's joint recognition," she explained. "The first of its kind, acknowledging mastery in both physical and digital realms." Marcus stared at the symbols of unity between tradition and innovation. "I don't understand. This is the beginning," his grandmother said. "Silicon Valley showed us that the next evolution of our arts needed both wisdom and innovation. Now you will help guide that evolution." Sarah's tablet beeped. More companies requesting training, more systems showing emerging awareness, more bridges being built between old and new. The seeds they'd planted were growing into a forest. "The best part?" Dr. Zhang grinned. "Phoenix Tech's old facility is being converted into the first quantum martial arts academy. Seems fitting, doesn't it?" Marcus looked around at what they'd built. Sarah teaching new students the basic forms, Dr. Zhang exploring the quantum possibilities, Catherine handling the growing business interest, and his grandmother ensuring they never lost sight of the true principles. "So," Sarah asked, "ready to start the next chapter?" Marcus adjusted his glasses, watching as another group of developers flowed through their forms while their systems hummed in harmony. In the window's reflection, he caught a glimpse of himself, no longer just a programmer, not simply a martial artist, but a bridge between worlds. "A wise teacher once told me," he smiled at his grandmother, "that every ending is just a new beginning." Outside, Silicon Valley hummed with evolved energy, as ancient wisdom and cutting-edge innovation danced their eternal dance. The dragons of tradition and technology had learned to fly together, and their journey was just beginning. The future was going to be interesting. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.